Okay, we're off.
We got to get our countdown on.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Why are you turning the into CrossFit?
It's not. It's not. All right. So, you want to go? Yeah.
Hey,
Hi.
episode 3, guys. Today we're going to talk about movement. I'm here with my lovely wife.
Hi, I'm Janie.
That was an awkward pause.
I thought you were going to say my name.
No,
so
I'm
sorry.
never going to introduce you. You got to introduce yourself.
All right. So, I'm Janie.
And I'm Dan. And today we're going to talk about the importance of movement in actually optimizing your health.
Yes.
Now, you think that this is a fairly obvious thing by now, but nope, we're still struggling with inactivity.
Right. So I see this a lot in my practice on a day-to-day. It's one of the things I'll ask at a physical if they come in with any sort of complaint or chronic disease follow-up. What's your daily activity? What's your daily movement? Do you exercise? And more often times than not, I'll get no or not really for various reasons. And so this isn't individual to me, to my experience. Actually, over half of the US adult population does not meet the minimum requirement of regular physical activity to prevent progression to things like diabetes, high blood pressure, or to decrease their risk of cardiovascular disease. And this is alarming because we know that, and I'm sure you know, that a good foundational base of physical activity can prevent a lot of things from which chronic disease manifests from. So.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that a lot of the issues that we see, like the number one killer of people in this country, is cardiac disease.
Right.
It's still, overwhelmingly so, it's still the number one killer of people. So
right.
it's safe to say that inactivity is a problem,
right,
to say the least.
And we also understand the importance of diet and nutrition, and we will be talking about that later. But today we're going to be focusing on movement.
Yep.
And
I think there's also, like, people tend to go either one or the other, and we want you to pay attention to both. They're both equally important because you can sit at home and eat all the right stuff,
right.
But if you're not moving and you're still a couch potato, you're still going to run into some issues there.
Exactly.
Now, is it going to be less issues than the majority of people because you're eating the right stuff? Probably, but you're still going to have problems.
Right.
And we're going to talk about the benefits of movement and how that pertains to optimizing your health and what you probably should be paying attention to when setting up a movement practice.
Right. So the current recommendations set forth from the powers that be say that the recommended exercise for a general person is 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise per week. Now that's ideally spread out throughout the week in at least 10-minute sessions, but then they also recommend 75 minutes of vigorous intensity exercise with strength training twice a week at a minimum. So they give us that information, but this is, I think, where the big gap is in the healthcare, especially in the training of healthcare professionals, is they'll say, okay, here's where we say patients should meet, but they give us no information on how do we get patients there. And so I encounter a lot of patients who they don't exercise at all. They don't want to, they don't like it. They don't know how. And if I wasn't active in my own personal life, I wouldn't know what to share with them. And that's where a lot of healthcare professionals are. They don't know what to share or how to get people from inactivity to activity. So this is where I think it's important for fitness professionals to be utilized more, tapped into more, because, for example, if you have somebody come to you who's like, all right, I want to train, I have not exercised ever or in a very long time, how do you start?
Good question, because I think that there should be sort of a handshake between healthcare and fitness at some point, and be like, hey, this person is suffering of this and that. It's all lifestyle related. We need to get them going, and then healthcare should be able to point them in the direction of a fitness professional,
right,
and somebody who can actually get them going in the right direction.
I just want to interject real quick, and I'm sorry. Yes, we should get them to you or to a fitness professional when they have chronic diseases, but that's the issue with U.S. healthcare, is we often bring in interventions that are most effective far too late. And so I think it should be more of, we should get them into being regularly exercised before they even have any issues.
Yep.
More preventative. So sorry, I just wanted to
No,
put that
I
there because I agree with the partnership and I think it should be there, but I don't think it should be utilized after somebody already has something. It should be, they're already healthy, their blood work looks great, everything's normal, and by great I mean per regular standards. We should get them into being active way before any disease process starts.
Or even when you see them trending, let's see somebody comes in for their yearly physical,
right,
and their weight's up 10, 15 pounds from the previous one. Be like, hey, you're not having issues yet, but you're trending. So maybe we should be talking about getting a little bit more physically active. And these are the resources that I can point you to. Another problem there is, and now we're kind of deviating a little bit from what you asked me, but is that most healthcare professionals, and I hate to say it, but this is the truth, are not in shape themselves. So they themselves are in the struggle of figuring out their own health. And the assumption that is made is that because they deal with people's health, that they would be in shape themselves and they would know how to optimize their health themselves. And that's not necessarily the case.
Right. And I think that's something we can dive into in much greater depths later. But you are correct. Most healthcare professionals are in this profession because they're givers, and they tend to do more for others than they do for themselves. And I think that that's a culture shift within healthcare. Is we want the medical providers who are going to run themselves ragged, be overworked, and not take care of themselves at the expense of getting the work done. And I'll just stop that there because I can go way off on that. But you are right. Most healthcare professionals aren't healthy. And I'm not saying that all of them aren't. There are some who are really in shape, and they're sort of like the rebel healthcare providers out there. But yeah, there's a disconnect between when you have a medical provider who doesn't take care of themselves, they're overweight, and they're like, okay, now you go exercise.
Yeah, that's okay. A hard one. That's a hard bridge to cross, and we can beat that up.
Yeah, we deviated. So anyway, you get somebody who comes to you, no physical activity. Where do you start?
So we got to set the guidelines. What's important? What has to be part of a complete movement practice? That's the first thing. So we got to create awareness, because awareness precedes change, around what is a complete movement practice. Okay, so it's resistance training. It has to be in there. There is no complete movement practice without some sort of resistance training. Okay, there's flexibility work, mobility work. You can throw that in there as well. And then there's cardiovascular work. Okay, now that's three things there. So cardiovascular work starting. This is where people go to first. That's where people tend to stay. If they get into quote unquote exercising, they immediately think about working out. If they want to start exercising, immediately think about working out. They immediately think about cardio stuff. Yeah. If they want to get into exercising, they're thinking, shit, I got to go jogging. Where I'm like, couldn't be further from the truth. You don't have to go jogging or doing any of that. Matter of fact, jogging would be one of the last things that I would recommend you do to start off.
Right.
Why? If you're coming off the couch and your body's not used to impact and you're carrying excess weight, when you start jogging, you're putting all that impact through your joints with that excess weight. We're talking about receiving up to 3 times your body weight every time you hit the pavement. You're not strong enough. Your bone density isn't there. Your joints are not there to take that impact. So I almost tell people, when you want to go jogging or running, you almost have to get in some sort of shape to be able to do that. So strength training is where you should probably start, to harden the body for the impact of running. If running is something that you really have to do, because I'm here to tell you that you don't have to do it. But
I've seen you when you start people who are regularly sedentary, you do promote walking.
Yes, walking is underrated and underappreciated. And I'm not just talking about going out on a stroll, although those are good. I'm talking about putting some purpose to your step for, 15 to 20 minutes to start off if you are just coming off the couch. This is underrated. And it more so than, walking is going to do miracles for me. the way it's a psychological thing, because with that I'm hoping they create a habit
Right.
of
Exactly.
setting time aside to move.
Mm-hmm.
So I just say, hey, this is super low barrier to entry. Grandma can do it, anybody can do it. If you have 2 legs and 2 arms, you can go out and you can go out there and go for a walk. Now, the thing is, it's to create a habit and to create a thought process, and it's just one step on a longer journey. Now, I mentioned 3 things: there's flexibility training or mobility training, there's cardiovascular, and then there's strength training. If you execute your strength training well, you're going to cover the mobility a little bit, and then you can sprinkle in some yoga in there if you feel so inclined, or animal flow. There's all sorts of mobility stuff out there that you can sprinkle in. But what we don't want to see you pick one and then just run with that, which is better than nothing. I got that. But and then leave other stuff behind. So let's say you get really into strength training, you start training like a power lifter, and you get really freaking strong. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But you neglect, your mobility gets worse, and you neglect your cardiovascular capacity. Then we don't have a full movement practice for longevity. Remember that I'm talking here about long-term health. I'm not talking about athletic development just yet, or I'm not talking about specializing in something like you want to be a triathlete.
Right.
Not talking about that. I'm talking long-term. What do we need to do so that when we're 85, we're still kicking ass?
Right.
Okay. So where I would start usually is in creating the habit of movement. Usually has to be really simple and really easy to access, and that's where I recommend going on daily walks.
Right.
Start with 15 minutes if you've been really sedentary, and then expand on those 15 minutes to 20 to 30, maybe even 40 minutes. Now, what you'll notice over time is that if you really follow this process, you're consciously, and then it becomes subconsciously, you're setting aside time to move.
Mm-hmm.
That's the most important thing, because now you have a habit. So as you evolve in the practice, then we can be like, hey, you're already setting time aside to move. How about we lift some weights now for that time?
And that's amazing that you do that and you get that time set aside habit starting, because, for example, you and I, we work out a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've had comments from people like, oh, you're so lucky that you can go to the gym all the time, or that you go to the gym all the time, or that you eat a certain way. And it's not luck. It's that I've prioritized setting aside this time, and now it's subconscious to me. Like, it's not a question, am I going to go to the gym after work? I go.
Yep.
And so, but it has to start somewhere, and you have to build that habit. And so this is a great way to do it. It has a low entry point.
I think, and this is somewhere where people, listen, I've seen you. I've seen you. I've seen you with these eyes right here. I've seen you say you have no time, and then I've seen you come home, and then the next day you watched freaking 3 or 4 episodes of your favorite Netflix show, but you have no time to exercise. I've seen you.
Oh, no. I've seen my patients who sit there and tell me they don't have time to exercise, but they have these amazing fake eyelashes. Their nails look amazing, and
they don't have time and money. They can't afford a gym
membership.
membership.
I have not gotten my nails done since our wedding. They are disgusting, because I would rather go to the gym than spend an hour at the nail salon.
So, and you know what? To each his own. Like, priorities are priorities, but I'm just letting you know that if you don't make this a priority, you're going to pay the piper somewhere. Yep. You're going to pay the piper somewhere. So you might as well make time for your health in some way, shape, or form.
And we can get deeper into why people don't make time for their health, because it just triggered me to think like, well, a lot of women will go get their nails done, get their hair done, makeup, whatever. They'll spend time doing that, but they won't spend time taking care of their body internally. You can say, so where's that disconnect, and why is how we like our accessories of nails and makeup more important than our body's ability to do things and our overall health? Like, where did that disconnect come from? Is that more of a psychological thing? Like, how do we dive into that? So that'd be something interesting to talk about. That's
an interesting conversation as well. Yeah. And I also think, giving people the benefit of the doubt, that it's complicated. It sounds complicated to think about coming up with a routine for a workout at the gym. setting so what do I do? Because there's all this, there's CrossFit, there's fucking running, there's triathlon training,
Right.
there's hit studios, there's so people, they're bodybuilding, so people are like, what do I do? Okay, guidelines: cardiovascular work, mobility work, strength training. Okay, we want to include those three in some way, shape, or form throughout the week. They don't have to be in the same day. Now, here's the thing: I think it's simpler, and I always say simple doesn't mean easy. It's a
Right.
little, we can keep this very simple. Simplicity in everything that we tell you is going to be a cornerstone of whatever principle we tell you, we recommend for you, because simplicity makes it more sustainable.
Right.
And the more sustainable it is, the more likely you're to do it for the long term, which is what we really care about here. We don't care about quick fixes.
Right.
We want you to do it for the rest of your fucking life. That's what it comes down to.
Right.
So,
And sorry, go ahead.
no. So with that in mind, like the cardiovascular aspect, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. You don't have to run 5 miles every day. You don't have to go do fucking 2 hours a hit. Walking is really good. Just add a little giddy up, time yourself, see what distance you're covering in the 20 or 30 minutes that you set aside for walking, and then try to improve on that over time. Simple and sustainable. It doesn't have to be crazy. Hiking, things like that. Steady state work, underrated. So these are things that you can do to just keep it simple and
Right.
just do it. Okay.
And they've come out with recommendations. I don't know how new it is, but it's gained popularity recently that going for a walk. So I mentioned that earlier, that 150 minutes a week of moderate intensity exercise. If you break that up into 30 minutes a day, so that's 5 days a week. If you break that up into 10 to 15-minute walks of moderate intensity every time after you eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that can actually help with better glycemic control or blood sugar control, especially for those people who are pre-diabetic or diabetic. I try to incorporate it. I'm neither of those, but why the fuck not? Because if I'm going to eat some glucose and then sit at my desk and on my computer and do work, I know that that's not doing anything good for me. So
Yeah, I think, with that in mind, moving the coup de grace of a movement practice is going to be resistance training.
yes,
Everybody, so when people start talking about movement and getting healthier and stuff, we're talking here down to the blood markers. Like, we want to see labs that look really good.
right,
Blood sugars are under control. We were talking about body composition and all this stuff. And people just automatically think losing weight, losing weight, losing weight. So I'm here to tell you what the thing that you think about when you say losing weight, and the vision that you have in your head of yourself if you lost weight, really is a stronger, more muscular version of yourself.
right,
That's the reality. You just haven't made that connection yet. And the way to get to the body that you want really includes strength training for the most
right,
part. I've seen plenty of people cardio themselves into a skinny look, and they're still not satisfied with the way they look, and they still think, and really the body composition isn't there.
right,
Until you start resistance training, that's where the body composition that people that looks ideal comes from. Now, what do I mean by body composition? I'm talking about reduced body fat percentage numbers and increased skeletal muscle mass numbers.
yes,
And the only way to accomplish that, you're not going to jog your way into that. You're not going to hit your way into that. Your only way to accomplish that is to lift some fucking weights, and they need to be challenging. We're not talking about your grandma's pink dumbbells here. They need to be challenging over time.
there is some argument for resistance training, especially as you get older.
Oh, even more so if we're talking about
Yeah,
long term, like now we're talking about osteopenia, we're talking about sarcopenia,
yeah,
okay? And then we're talking about retaining metabolic flexibility,
right.
okay? So let's go over those. What is osteopenia for the
Osteopenia
people?
is a decrease in your bone density that is related to just occurring over time. But it is highly influenced by your calcium absorption, your vitamin D intake or exposure, and also your physical activity level. And so if you think of the and it's probably the glorified woman from like the 70s and 80s who was rail thin, had no muscle, smoked cigarettes, and was just tiny. She's the highest risk for osteoporosis. She's going to be the one to break a hip later in life. So we don't want to be her.
Yeah.
Sarcopenia is decreasing muscle.
So decrease as you age. Understand that your sarcopenia is going to happen.
Right.
As you age, the older you get, the more this comes in. You're going to lose muscle mass as you age. So your job is to fight like hell to retain as much of it as you can as you age. Why? If you fall, muscle is protective to your skeletal system. Okay? If you fall and you're a more muscular person, the chances of breaking like a wheat thin are reduced.
Right, but and the other part of it too, it's multifactorial why we want people to do strength training for things like osteoporosis is because it also helps reinforce balance and strength. So then you're less likely to fall the stronger you are. You're less likely to fall the more balance you have. And so that there,
things like balance and coordination come up with strength training for sure. Because strength training is not just a physical thing, it's a neurological thing. It's a skill. It works your nervous system and it teaches it to recruit muscle more efficiently, which is what you want. Another benefit of strength training as you age. If you fall, you might not even fall because you can actually stop yourself and catch yourself.
You can get up after you fall.
And you can get up after you fall. Makes sense? If you notice, that's something that a lot of like older people have a problem with is getting down and getting up from the ground. Now, the more muscle you have, you can catch yourself, you can support yourself, all that sort of thing. So you're less likely to end up with a walker as you age. I mean, all these things are like, why not?
Yeah. And it's more and more coming out that, muscle is the key to longevity. And we're listening to a podcast right now about this. So we don't have all the pertinent information yet, but it makes sense.
No, but we've seen that there's already plenty of stuff out there on this. But we've been using cardiovascular metrics as the determining factor for longevity.
Yeah, we'll just lift weights faster.
Yeah, exactly. But we've been using like for a long time, marathon runners were the holy grail of fitness. And, more and more that conventional wisdom is getting debunked, essentially, that no, because you don't have that much muscle mass, you're actually putting your body through a shit ton of stress at that point. So it's actually detrimental and it's withering you away. Whereas when you start putting on muscle mass, you're building yourself up.
And now, sorry, go ahead. No, I don't mean to interrupt you.
No. Well, we talk about the people tend to equate lifting weights with bodybuilding, with getting big AF, all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It couldn't be further from the truth.
I love that meme, whatever, that was going around that said, like a woman, specifically mothers, won't use anything over a 5-pound dumbbell, but they have no problem picking up their 20-pound baby carrier. So if you look at your life, strength is key. Strength is needed. You utilize strength every day. And if you were stronger, would your day-to-days be easier?
I just picture, say a mom with 2 kids, you have a toddler, or you have a baby or something, and you got one that you're picking up and the other one you're pushing on his shoulder. You gotta be strong as fuck to do that.
Yeah.
You gotta be like let's keep it real. That's like trunk work. Boom, I'm stabilizing on one side.
Yeah, but
unilateral load, like it's awkward carry, like, and then you're moving around coordinated as hell. Like that's hard as shit.
Right. So you're doing it already.
Yeah. Why would you not do something that supports that?
Yeah.
That helps you do that. Here's another one that I wanna address too: the time factor of it. Because like I just thought, moms and people who have kids.
So how often does somebody need to strength train every single day, 7 days a week?
Hell no. If you can do that, you ain't doing it right. That's the truth. You ain't doing it right.
Right.
2 times a week is a good start, and you can get some really good results if you lift weights 2 times a week. Some of the best athletes on this planet only lift weights 2 times a week because that's what they can fit in with all the sport and all the other stuff that they have to do 2 times a week. And like I've seen it, I've been at it at the collegiate level 2 times a week. Okay. That can get you some phenomenal results if you have a well laid out plan together,
Right.
though,
And
because it's got to be
that's
very,
just the strength training 2 times a week. The other days
yeah.
are other things.
So let's go from ideal and to reduced. Okay, ideal, 7 days a week you're walking, you're moving outside in some way, shape, or form, whether it's strolling or whether it's actually walking with a purpose and timing yourself. But that you can do that pretty much every day. We want to move in some way, shape, or form. There's no days where I just veg out on the couch. Kill that. Done with that. Okay. Now, the weight training, we could 2 to 3 times a week for the average person that just looking to train for longevity is perfect. You do not need to lift 5 days a week. You don't. You do not need to lift 5 days a week. Okay, 2 to 3 days of well thought out, progressively overloaded, where you're going in there and challenging yourself, and over time lifting heavier and heavier weights and getting more reps out of it is going to be perfect. You can sustain that and you're going to get great results from it, and you're going to get strong as hell. You're recovering from it because you're not in there every day beating yourself up. It is perfect. 2 to 3.
Yeah.
And then just do it for a long time.
Right.
Okay. Now, when I tell people, hey, what's ideal? Let's say you break it down for a week. This depends on the person. You come in on Monday, you lift some weights. Tuesday, you do some cardio, you go on a long walk, whatever. If you swim, that sort of thing, do your steady state, sustained effort aerobic work. Wednesday, you lift again. Thursday, you go on a walk again. And Friday, you lift again. That's your week of vigorous exercise. And then Saturday and Sunday, you can just stroll on the beach if you're fortunate enough to have a beach like us, or go on a hike or whatever.
Go for a walk, go for a bike ride.
Yep. And now you have, go play golf if you're into that sort of thing. And now you have the ideal movement practice that you can sustain for the rest of your life. So, and how long should I be in the gym, Dan? Because people like, I was in the gym for 2 hours. Let me tell you something. If you were in the gym for 2 hours, I bet my ass that you were on Instagram for 1 hour and 30 and you just worked out for 30 minutes. I'm calling you out right now. Calling you out.
Or you're like me and just like squirrel.
Yeah.
Or you just
talking to people, like dapping it up with people, which is good because, hey, you want to be part of a tribe.
Right.
But, you're dapping it up and then you actually worked out for 30 minutes. No more than 1 hour. You can get in there 40 to an hour, knock that shit out, get out, go home and go live your life.
Right.
But it's not a matter of, should I do this? The question is not should, it's how. How do I do this? How do I make it make sense for my life? Because I don't have an option if I actually want to live a long, fruitful, healthy, productive, meaningful, kick-ass life.
Right. And so it is alarming about how many people are inactive. And, besides like lack of education from healthcare providers, there's also, you hit on it earlier, that people don't know what to do, fear of injury, or other barriers that, I can't afford a gym, I can't do these, all these different things. And so ideally, with the prioritizing strength training, like you said, and having a well thought out plan, having a trainer would be amazing, and would provide a ton of benefit. And with any profession, I think a great trainer is more of like, teach you how to fish so then you can do it on your own sort of thing. I know a lot of people hesitate with getting a trainer because of the cost associated with it.
It's expensive. I get that. That's not going to be accessible to a lot of people to get for a trainer. But I say you want to invest in some sort of coaching.
Right.
Just whatever your budget fits for whatever allotted amount of time. And here's the thing, you're going to invest time or you're going to invest money.
Right.
And you can decide to invest time and money into sick care and being at the doctor every week when you're older, or you can decide to invest time and money into fitness right now and being proactive about your health.
Yeah.
So things that I recommend, obviously getting a personal trainer and a coach that's there to lay out a detailed plan for you is the top choice. That's the LD, that's the Lamborghini. If you can afford the Lamborghini, you go with Lamborghini. Why not?
Right.
Step down from that, joining group fitness facilities, and the cost is reduced, and learning as you go, and then you supplement that with your own research and things like that. You got to get curious about this, because the goal here that we have for you, that people that follow us, is for you to own your health,
right,
for you to own it. Nobody is going to own it for you. You are going to take charge of that motherfucker, and you are going to oversee it, and you're going to cherish it, and you're going to nourish it.
yeah,
That's what we want for you. So you have to get curious about what it takes so that you can keep it going, because you won't have somebody at your side for forever.
yeah,
Nobody's going to care more than you. Not your doctor, not
right,
your trainer. Nobody's going to care more than you. We shouldn't care more than you. Make sense? So you have to do some research on your own as well. That's why hopefully we're here to provide you and point you in the
yep,
right direction. But it starts, step down, group fitness facilities, get in there, get some coaching for some amount of time.
right,
Okay. So, and then step down from that, buying online programs from reputable sources, because there's a lot of ash and trash out there on the internet.
yes,
So, reputable sources, so that you don't go to the gym and just wander around aimlessly from machine to machine, and you have something to follow and you can track your
right,
progress. These programs, like we follow, I'm a coach, I write programs for a bunch of people, but for my own fitness, I follow somebody else's program,
yeah.
because when it comes to me, I don't want to think about it. I just want to execute it in the time that I have, and then get back to writing programs for other people. So,
And I am married to a fitness coach, and I follow somebody else's program.
boom. So, and the cost on that is $30 a month.
Right,
And you have a full 6-day-a-week program. We don't train 6 days a week, but the program runs 6 days a week.
right,
Shout out Power Athlete on that
right,
one. And we don't have to, you show up to the gym, there's videos, boom, boom, boom. So these are the resources that you need. So to go over it again: luxury, Lamborghini, personal trainer, coach, online coach, whatever, person that takes care and writes you out a custom program for where you're at right now, et cetera, et cetera.
right,
Step down from that, group fitness facilities, and get somewhere where you can get taught how to exercise, in preferably, resistance training and that sort of thing. And then step down from that, online programs that are, highly accessible at $30 a month or
right,
so. But have a plan and a direction
right.
on where you want to go with that.
And the reason from a medical standpoint is why this is so important is that physical inactivity, like I said earlier, leads to heart disease, increases your risk for diabetes, increases your risk for hypertension. Being inactive can actually worsen depression, and all-cause mortality, morbidity is reduced if you're regularly active.
Yep.
So there's no downside to increasing your physical activity. Is there a risk of injury? Sure. I mean, I've broken a clavicle, I've broken a toe, and I've injured my finger in the weight room.
Now, you see,
comes
but
with the hazard.
I don't think that people understand just how much risk of injury, quote unquote, there is if you don't train.
Right, no, but that's what I'm saying, and I was going to get to, but I've broken those things, minor injuries, thankfully. Oh, I've also torn my ACL playing soccer. I totally forgot that. But looking at all that stuff, I would rather be injured, being physically active, and know that I can recoup, than not be inactive, fall, and be worse off in recovery because I'm inactive.
Yep.
And so I think it's a,
listen,
risk versus benefit, and I think the benefit greatly outweighs the
yeah,
risk.
oh yeah. There's a, I think it's a Brett Contreras. He always says, if you think being strong or getting strong is dangerous, try being weak.
Right.
So the body is use it or lose it, and we'll kind of start wrapping up here. Body is use it or lose it. If you don't use the range of motion of your joints, your body takes it away. It shuts it down.
Like you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just moving around.
Jiu-jitsu range of motion.
Yeah, I'm tight. If you don't use it, the body takes it away. It starts down regulating its movement.
Right.
Okay. Achy shoulders, people that report low back pain, achy joints. Oh, my knees hurt. Did you do something traumatic? Meaning, did you fall? Did you bust your ass somewhere and hurt that knee? No, it just started hurting.
Right.
It's a lot of times it's because it's weak.
Right.
That weakness in your body's letting you know that it wants to move.
Yep.
Okay.
All right,
So
we need to wrap
with
this
that
up.
in mind,
We're gonna wrap this up. It's
we're gonna
raining.
wrap this up because it's raining. Guys, listen, start, just start. Okay, if it's walking right now, just start moving. That's what matters most. It doesn't have to be pretty. It just has to get done.
Right.
Okay.
And if you follow Dan on Instagram, he provides a ton of free content and information on exercises to incorporate. And always feel free to reach out to us if you'd like direction on who you should follow, what program you should get into, or how just to get started with being regularly active. We'd love to point you in the right direction because there are people out there who do a great job, like Dan mentioned earlier, power athlete, who has way more knowledge than we do on this. And so, yeah, we can help point you in that direction.
Yep. And we are at Achieve the Lifestyle on Instagram. Give us a follow.
All right, bye. We
Where
went
did-
over on that one.
Yeah, I kind of expected that.
You are a storyteller, my friend.